Well, Albert Pujols will not be the next manager for the Angels, at least right now.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we say right now because we never know with this team. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. So did Artie fumble this with Albert Pujols, or is it actually a good decision? And if no Albert, then who will manage? What about Tori Hunter? We'll get to that. And then Bo Porter expressed some interest, and we're going to talk about how about no. We'll discuss that in our third segment. Before we get there, I want to thank our sponsor, Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is Jon, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Jon.
Hey, it's been 4 years that we've been the hosts of Locked On Angels, and we're talking Angels baseball with you every single weekday. And if you're a sicko like Mike and I are, we're glad that you're here because we love this team, even though they do this to us over and over and over again. I made a joke yesterday about the sickos, but after today, or I should say yesterday, I suppose, man, we're some real sickos with Albert Pujols and Tori Hunter out of the running. We're going to talk about all of that. Thank God, Mike, thank God that the Blue Jays won, because it would have been the worst day of my baseball life this season if we gotten that news and the Mariners went on to the World Series to face the Dodgers. I would have just watched like ballet or something instead of the World Series this year, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about the news that broke yesterday. Albert Pujols is no longer in the running as the Angels manager, is he, Mike?
Yeah, that's according to The Athletic. There was mutual interest, we knew that, between the Angels and Pujols, but the two sides, sounds like, couldn't come together on dollars and years. Now, Sam Blum tweeted this. He said, well, nothing is ever 100% with Angels owner Arte Moreno, and circumstances could evolve once again. It's believed to be very unlikely that the two sides are going to find common ground. Now, let me take you back 12 days ago. Pujols met with Perry Minasian in St. Louis. They were discussing the job. There were a few baseball media insiders that said, oh, he's in. They're going to announce him as the new manager. And it sounds like the conversations went well, according to sources. There was strong momentum building towards a contract. And at the time, Albert was really the only candidate that was being considered very seriously by the Angels, but wasn't clear what the expectations were to get the deal done. Angels obviously still have that $1 million a year contract with Albert. He's doing the personal service stuff. And there was some conversation about already not wanting to give him that plus more money. But you made a good point when you did an update on this very, very news about Albert on one of our social media channels. He talks about how that would be null and void no matter what he does, no matter where he goes.
Right.
But really the big question here, Jon, is this a fumble by Arte Moreno, or is this a good move because Albert hasn't ever managed in the big leagues? What do you think?
I don't think that it's a problem that he hasn't managed in the big leagues. And apparently that's what they're looking for, is somebody who has managed before, because Tori Hunter's out of the running, right, Mike? And so we've got a list of candidates, some who, have not necessarily coaching experience like Kurt Suzuki, but he is a former catcher, and those guys tend to make the best sorts of managers. But we'll talk about that in a little bit later on. But I just think that this feels like a huge fumble, especially if you couldn't agree on dollars. No matter what happens, and I'll repeat it here so that everybody is clear, no matter what happens, whether the Angels hired him or not, Albert Pujols is off the hook for that personal services contract, which means that the remaining $7 million that the Angels have to pay him for the next 7 years, they're also off the hook because they have to let him out of a contract to go manage somewhere else. And if he stayed, then you just void that contract and pay him a manager salary. Now, it's interesting that money, but in particular years, were the problem here. And you and I have said, and you brought up the specific number a few episodes ago, give him a 5-year plan. Let him have a 5-year plan and let him do something with it. Now, the contention is, if Albert Pujols wants to come in, I think it was Everyday or Will on YouTube had mentioned in the comments section, maybe if you're going to pay somebody to come in and, kind of revamp what the Angels are doing and maybe want to do different things in the way they've been doing it, then you probably want to do that with a more reliable person than Pujols just because he hasn't been a manager before.
Sure.
But my contention with that is what they're doing now isn't working, and it hasn't been working. And you just had Ron Washington, and now you're going to be in the same boat again with an experienced manager. But, right, it feels like there's a ... after that. Joe Maddon, experienced manager, but Brad Ausmus, experienced manager, but, right? And so it just felt like the right time to take a chance on somebody who hasn't been an experienced manager before, to grow with this young team and see what you can get out of them. And we liked Pujols because we thought that he would demand excellence from not just the players, but the organization. Unfortunately, it seems like demanding too much excellence from this team is just too much for them to comprehend.
Victor Rojas tweeted that he's not surprised by this. This is the Angels' MO. And he's somebody that interviewed for the general manager job before.
And he probably didn't get the job because he had a great plan and a great strategy and all that stuff. And they went, well, we can't really afford all that. And that's my Angels voice, because I did that on the short too. Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure if we can afford that. Like, that's the thing, is Victor had a great plan. He posted it on social media after he was told he wasn't going to get the job, and then he stepped down from his broadcast position. He posted his plan on social media, and it was a great plan. I don't know if it still lives out there. I think he put it on Twitter. So if you go back to 2020, late 2020, after he interviewed, you might be able to see it there. But the fact is, Mike, he probably had a great idea, and Pujols probably had some great ideas, and the Angels just can't meet the moment. It's too much excellence for them, Mike.
Yeah. It also might be that he was going to bring in a good coaching staff.
Yeah.
And they couldn't afford that. Ramon Martinez was mentioned as the pitching coach, potentially, if he comes in and Albert Pujols is the manager. Ramon hasn't had any coaching experience at the major league level, but he is somebody that pitched, and he is somebody that has worked in the Dominican leagues. And so he's worked with different pitchers, developing different pitchers. So there's some potential there as well. But I'll bet it had to do with, one, Albert and obviously the years, but also probably had to do with the coaching staff that he wanted to bring in and the names that he wanted to bring in. But to your point, it just feels like Arte doesn't see the forest for the trees. And I finally understand that phrase now. And what I mean by that is he doesn't see that this is just a train wreck, and he wants to continue to do the same thing that caused the train wreck and doesn't want to make any moves. Now, there's a lot of everydayers that have pushed back on Albert Pujols being the one that would come in and manage this team. And I get the concern because he doesn't have managerial experience, and the separation from the Angels when he was let go and went to the Dodgers and then eventually the Cardinals, that could be a lingering issue as well. But bottom line, John, it just felt like, and sounds like, and sources say, it was about money and it was about years. So we could talk about all the other things and say, well, we really didn't want this manager who didn't do this or this guy who didn't do that. But really, it came down to money and years.
And that's the problem, Mike, is that it doesn't matter if it was Pujols or Tori Hunter or, Mike Trout being a player manager, right? It doesn't matter who it is. It comes down to the same thing. They're cheap. They don't want to make a commitment. They want to play this baseball game year over year over year. They want to make more money this year than they did last year. And that's all that matters. That's all they care about. And it's not about putting a winning product on the field. It's just absolutely infuriating.
And I'm not surprised. I'm not
surprised either.
And I think that's the part that I found really fascinating for me today and yesterday as I learned about this information. It was like, I'm not surprised. Figured that would happen. In fact, when we've talked about Albert Pujols, you and I were like, it'd be kind of cool to see what happened. And he probably could bring this level of excellence and could probably bring an aura, right? Like a talent, and maybe really push these guys to give a certain direction. We even dug into the numbers in the Dominican leagues. That was the only time he managed. And hey, how would it work with this team? So we were kind of hyping ourselves up for that and maybe hyping up our everydayers. And I'm not surprised. There was a part of me that was like, I don't know if they're going to do this, right? Because they're going to end up, the reality is, and we'll talk about names in the next segment, but the reality is they're going to end up with Cosmo Kramer as the manager of this team. It's going to be somebody that they're going to be like, well, and they're going to try to hype him up. They're going to try to hype him up. It's going to be a straw man that they lift up and say, this is why we got him, because he's going to do this and he's going to do that. There's no thought. There's no intentionality. There's no strategy. It was interesting to watch Foul Territory, and Eric Kratz talked about Buster Posey potentially hiring the manager from the University of Tennessee. And he said, Eric Kratz said, I trust Buster Posey. I don't trust Perry Minasian.
No. And
I don't trust Arte Moreno. They have not earned our trust. They aren't even trying to work to earn our trust. And so when this happened, it was like, yeah, I kind of expected that. In fact, best man at my wedding, Neil Lidson. Remember Neil? He texted me about a week ago and saw the rumor about Albert coming to the Angels, but also being interviewed maybe for the Orioles or the Padres job. And he said, wasn't Albert planning on going to the Angels? Wasn't that like what the plan was? And I said, yeah, but the Angels are the Angels and they're going to fumble this. Man, I'm a prophet. I was right. Because that's exactly what they did with this. Again, can be all sorts of discussions about, well, was it good or was it a good decision? The reality is everything that we see the Angels do right now, especially when it comes to managers and coaches, it's not going to have to do with anything, even when they hire somebody. Perry's going to throw all sorts of stats and details and numbers at us. It's not going to have to do with any of that. It's going to have to do with years and money. That's what it boils down to. How much do we have to pay this guy to try to figure out how to fix our team? And how much do we hold back and not be able to give him because we don't want to give him too much? That's really what it boils down to. They're not thinking about, well, the mind here of this guy is really great. Or, he did great when he was with this team, or he really helped this guy. They're not thinking about any of that stuff. No. So when we get into that discussion, it's cute. It's cute for us as fans to get into that discussion. But the truth is the answer to the question is who will manage the Angels? It will be about how many years can we give this guy without blowing the bank and without paying too much? And can we get all of his coaches on the cheap and sell it like it's a really good decision?
Yeah. And it doesn't matter what they come in with a plan, or I should say, it doesn't matter how they come in with a plan, because if they have a plan to, hey, you know what, I think that we should be doing this with our players. I think that we should be doing this and that, we should be leaning more into, I don't know, analytics, or maybe we need to hook up some of these pitchers to, the motion capture thing, right? Whatever it is. For the Angels, it's, I really don't know if we can spend that money though. Like, I just don't think that that's in the books, right? And so again, get a freaking scarecrow out there to manage this team and hook them up to ChatGPT, because at this point, Mike, that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
Is somebody to just say, oh, let's see, Kikuchi's at 88 pitches. It's probably time to pull him. We'll go out there and pull him and like, it doesn't matter who the personality is. It doesn't matter what they've done in this game or what they haven't done in this game. Experience or no experience, it comes down to money and years and trying to get out on the cheap. And that's what this team is right now. And there's no way it's going to change until Arte Moreno sells this freaking team or he croaks. I'm sorry. That's the way it comes down to. And, I don't want to speak ill of anybody, but that's the reality of the situation. He's got to sell the team or he's got to pass on. And we're stuck in this circular motion forever and ever and ever. And that's where it's going to stand. And for some reason, we're all still sickos. We still love this team and we're all still here talking about them. And it's a real shame because of who's on this team right now. Somebody could really do something with this crop of guys that they have on the field, but the Angels just don't see it that way. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, oh boy, who's going to manage these Halos? We got a list of candidates, and I'm pretty sure Scarecrow hooked up to ChatGPT is on that list. We'll talk about all of that coming right up.
Right in the middle of the NFL season, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers like you can bet $5, and you'll get $300 in bonus bets if you win. So pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you're going to unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel. So many ways to play. You can build parlays, try player props. You can even follow the live lines as the game is unfolding. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So stop waiting. Get started with FanDuel at FanDuel.com. Download the FanDuel app today and get started.
And today's show is brought to you by our friends at Monarch. Now, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. So between 401ks, savings, investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. And if you're scratching your head going, 401k, well, we've got the tool for you. It's why you need to meet Monarch, the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch will help you organize all your accounts, track your spending, and get a better handle on all your investments without having to touch a spreadsheet. With Monarch, you can review everything with your partner. You can see shared goals, set those goals, and make those decisions together when it comes to your finances. Monarch's visual dashboards and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where your money's going and how to make it work harder for you. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can check us out wherever you get your podcasts. We're even on Fire TV. Glad to be there with you. Whether you're watching or listening, jump into the conversation over on YouTube. Love to hear what you have to say in the comments. And while you're there, hit that like and subscribe button. We would even love a rate and review and let us know what you think about the show. 5 stars is always super fun. You can tag us on social media, DM us on social media as well at Locked On Angels on Twitter and Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram with your thoughts on today's discussion. And we know that you're going to have thoughts, Johnny. These everydayers are going to share some really interesting thoughts because with Albert out of the picture, at least for right now, John, how about Tori Hunter? Let's just go to Tori Hunter. What do you think?
Somebody who doesn't have any experience, but he's obviously had an impact on this team. And, you know, he would be a great guy to fire up the team. And he would be a young candidate who could grow with these. Oh, what's this? Breaking news? Bob Nightingale? Yeah. The Angels have informed Tori Hunter, one of the most popular players in franchise history, that he is no longer in the running for their vacant managerial job. Okay. Well, there goes that idea, Michael.
Yeah. John, it is Bob Nightingale, so we got to take it with a grain of salt, right? Because
there was some other follow up.
There was some other
more legit guys, that also confirmed the news.
When Rhett Bollinger talked about it and Jeff Fletcher talked about it, I was like, okay, it's serious, right? But this news was not surprising either. I wasn't surprised at this either. And Tori Hunter, poor guy, has finished second 3 times now with the Angels, right? Finished second because they didn't re-sign him and they got Josh Hamilton, and then finished second when they signed Ron Washington and he wanted to be the manager. And then now he's finishing second and isn't going to be even considered after Albert Pujols is out of the picture.
Right.
John, again, can we take it back to the conversation about Albert and address that same idea with Tori Hunter? Is this the Angels being thoughtful, or is this really just being a team that's unwilling to pay and unwilling to take a risk?
Well, he's in the same situation as Albert Pujols. No managerial experience at the MLB level, right? However, when we saw Tori Hunter in the dugout this season, you kind of saw an immediate impact. We thought that he had some Tori magic on this team because of the way that they were playing in that series. I think it was it against the Twins? There was a night where they looked terrible, right? And then they come out the next night and they look like a great team, defense buttoned up, hitting the ball the other way, right? Doing all the things that we've been wanting them to do for a very long time. So with the Angels, if I'm just putting on my, guess away hat here, it's okay, Albert's out, Tori's out. Then that tells me, Mike, that somebody like Kurt Suzuki would be out. Now I know that he is also a special assistant like Tori Hunter and is in the mix for a managerial position. But the problem is he doesn't have any managerial experience. So I guess my conundrum here is what's the train of thought?
Yeah.
Is there a plan? Do they not think that far ahead? As we said many times this year on the show, because I can't read what they're trying to do other than the fact that Brandon Hyde, who managed the Orioles the last couple of seasons, he was let go early on because of their poor start to the season. Rocco Baldelli, who's managed the Twins, they let him go. They're kind of in a rebuild mode anyway, so we'll probably see Tori Hunter land in Minnesota. That's also been reported that he could remain a candidate for the Minnesota Twins because, of course, When you think of Tori Hunter, you think of Angels, and then you think of Twins, right? And then maybe a little Tigers in there too, but mostly Angels and Twins. But my problem here is I can't follow this train of thought, because if those two guys are in, but Pujols and Hunter are out, and then Kurt Suzuki's in the mix, you got some real Steiner math going on here, Mike. You got a 66 and 3/3 chance of beating me and Samoa Joe. You add him into the mix. It's Steiner math. I don't get it. What are we doing here?
Let me take a guess. I think that outside of years and money, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, that they do want some experience. The problem is they went with the Ron Washington experience before. 70-year-old guy who was going to come in and who was going to fix this team fundamentally. And that didn't happen. None of that happened, right? If he doesn't leave because of health issues this year, maybe they've improved and we have a different conversation, but we don't know. So we can only go on what the Angels have shown us, and what they've shown us is, yeah, they had more wins this year than last year, but it really wasn't impressive. There wasn't anything about it that made me go, well, this was right. I mean, there's some nuance in there with some of the players, but overall, there was not much that was really impressive. In fact, the second half sucked. They fell off a cliff. So if they're going to go with experience, they went with that older veteran Ron Washington experience. Didn't help this team. Wasn't effective. So if you're going to go with maybe a Buck Showalter, which is a name that came up when Ron Washington was in that mix and Angels were looking for somebody, that still feels a bit like a Ron Washington move. It feels like you're bringing in another old guy to try to talk to these young guys. And John, Buck's not going to be cheap. I mean, this guy has been around the block, so he's not going to be cheap. And Buck is not going to be somebody that's going to go, hey, I want this coach. No, we can't afford that. Okay. He's not going to say that.
No,
he's going to go, I want who I want. I want my guys in there. And we've talked about how it might be good to have somebody that Artie respects, a former Angel, come in because he has Artie's ear. Maybe that's the line of thinking, John. Maybe that's the line of thinking. He doesn't want anybody that could potentially have his ear. He doesn't want anybody that could potentially sway him in a certain direction. Maybe Perry Minasian doesn't want anybody that could potentially be the guy that's supposed to be under him, but is actually above him because he's got Artie's ear. I'm sure there's all of those factors that are playing into this, because this is a cluster of a mess. This is chaotic. This is not good. And the line of thinking here, I think, to summarize, is they want an experienced manager, but I don't think they want somebody that's going to cost them too much, that's going to usurp the authority of general manager Perry Minasian. They don't want somebody who is inexperienced, at least on the field as a manager. Maybe as a player they were great, but they haven't really proven themselves. That seems to be the line of thinking here. I will contend and go back to what we said in the first segment. It's really about numbers and years. And I bet you Tori and Albert are like, I need at least 4 years. I need at least 4 years to make something happen here. And that's where the tension lies.
Yeah, they gave Ron Washington 2, Mike.
Right.
With an extension that they didn't with an option, I should say, that they didn't pick up.
Yeah.
And that's where they started. And so that's where, if that's what they did with Ron Washington, I'm certain that they didn't give anything more than that to guys who have never managed before, right?
And you can't build anything in 2 years.
No.
You're only inheriting a mess.
Yeah.
And after 2 years is when you just start putting your fingerprints on something. So it's not unreasonable, even if they don't have the experience, for Albert Pujols and Tori Hunter and whoever else to say, I got to have at least 4 years, because after year 2, finally, it's not that guy's thing. It's your thing. But then year 3 is when you can really put your fingerprints on it. Year 4 is when it's really your culture. And I would say even year 5 is when things become and feel and are experienced as you want them to be.
Yeah.
It would not be unreasonable for them to ask for that, no matter who it is that's coming in, because this has been a mess and they haven't had anybody that's lasted longer than, 3 years at the most? Has anybody lasted 3 years since Mike Scioscia? It's only been like 2 or 1, right? Like it's just been plucking guys, and they never promised anything to any of these guys. Phil Nevin got, hey, would you manage this year while we're waiting to figure out what we're going to do with the organization? Right. That's what he got.
Exactly. And they're probably calling Phil Nevin up right now to say, hey, you want to come back? And I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
because
I know you're not.
That's where we're at this point. Now, I'll say this. There's two things I want to hit on, and that's whoever the manager is, their coaching staff has to be really good.
Yes.
And the problem is that if you're not willing to pay a manager, you're not going to be willing to pay a good coaching staff.
No.
We're going to have more Enrights. We're going to have more Johnny Washingtons. And look, we've been fans of Enright. We know that not everything's been perfect with the pitching staff, but they got him because he learned under Brent Strom, and he's, kind of the second best thing to getting a Brent Strom, right? Is, okay, we'll get the guy that learned under him. So all of this comes down to who the manager is and who their coaching staff is going to be. But the second thing I'll say is this, and you kind of had me have a light bulb moment here. How much time has passed since Perry and Arte and Pujols spoke? 12 days. And when I think about it, one of the major contentions that we said was, hey, if they hire a Pujols or a Tori Hunter and that boxes out Perry Minasian, then maybe that's a good thing, because then Arte will do what somebody like Pujols wants them to do or Tori Hunter wants them to do. I don't think it's a coincidence, Mike, that the two guys that we think would box out Perry Minasian and have Arte and Tori or Albert kind of have more sway in this organization. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think that is a coincidence at all. So whatever's happened in the last 12 days has been probably a lot of Perry Minasian fighting for whatever power he has left with this organization in the last year of his contract, right? And so that's just me speculating wildly. But you know what? Instead of doing things, reasonably, I'm going to speculate wildly because I'm tired of being mistreated. I'm tired of them not being reasonable with us. So I'm not going to be reasonable with them either.
Man, I wonder what it was like to watch George Springer as a Toronto Blue Jays fan hit that home run last night. Like, to watch that game live was fun.
I'm not even mad that he cheated anymore.
Right. I know. Yeah. All's forgiven. Nothing like catching baseball live, but getting tickets can be really difficult. And that's the tough part with queues and login screens and surprise fees. It takes all the fun out of it, but that's why Game Time is here for you, giving the advantage back to our everydayers. It's fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You're always going to get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. All the fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay, and it's honestly faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that you can buy tickets. So download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
And just when you think things couldn't get any worse, you feel like, oh man, Albert Pujols, well, I get it. Maybe it was a lot to ask and whatnot, but we still got Tori Hunter, and oh shoot, now he's not in the running. Like a freaking cockroach in the kitchen. Here comes Bo Porter.
Raising his hand.
Pick me. Told the Athletic.
In the kitchen? Is that what you just said? That was so good.
That's what I said. Bo Porter told the Athletic that he wants another shot at managing. He's very interested in the Angels' current vacancy, which he interviewed for the last time it was open. He said, I would enjoy managing the Angels because I've been there the last 2 years. I've made an investment there. The relationships have already been fortified. Now, Porter said the Angels haven't contacted him for an interview, but he has told General Manager Perry Minasian that he is interested. He shared, I expressed my interest to him, that I would love to interview for the job. That's something Minasian would have to take back to Arte, and they can make that decision. I believe I have a lot to offer to any organization that gives me a second chance. A second chance, Mike. A second chance, because Bo Porter has had a first chance, hasn't he?
Yeah, managed the Houston Astros when they were rebuilding for 2 years, 2013, 2014. He was fired in 2014, September of 2014. They brought in A.J. Hinch, and of course, A.J. Hinch led them to some success. There was the dynasty, I guess you could call them. They won the World Series in 2017. A lot of questions about that, sign stealing, trash can banging, all of that stuff. Now, Hinch was suspended following the 2019 season and is now coaching the Tigers, and they're pretty good. But back to Bo Porter. Bo Porter said, I'm prepared to manage. I need to get back on the field. He added, I think there's a shift coming back to where playing experience is becoming more of a priority as it relates to managing the game and the bandwidth that it takes to manage. Okay, if that's the case, then why isn't Tori and Albert being considered
Mhm.
here, right? He said, I believe everyone deserves an opportunity. Before I got my opportunity, someone could have said that this guy should never manage, and he's never managed before. At the same time, I think there's definitely advantages and a benefit to those of us that have done the job because we've learned lessons along the way from the first time around. John, yes or no to Bo?
I'm saying no to Bozo Porter. I'm not.
Yeah.
He's
No.
not. No, absolutely not.
No.
Because if
Say it
we get
again.
Bo Porter,
No.
Mike, if we get Bo Porter, then we're getting Johnny Washington back,
Mhm.
and we're getting Barry Enright back. We're getting all the same stuff coming back, and this team's going to look exactly the same as it has the last 2 years. I've been there 2 years. I made an investment. I hate that investment. I think it stinks. You want to talk about Monarch and making investments? Well, this is a bad investment.
Yeah.
Don't invest in Bo Porter, and I don't want you to invest in us. Nobody. I don't want a mutual investment, pun intended. Right there, you go.
I don't like that language anyway. Hey, man, I have friendships there.
Yeah,
I built all these relationships. Okay, cool. But what can you do to make this a winning organization? That's really what matters. I got friendships there. I think what he's implying there is that there won't be much work to do to have to build a relationship, and we can really focus on this team. All that language is nonsense to me until you show me a strategy. You show me what you're going to be doing. You show me that you can make this happen. Here's step 1. Here's step 2. Here's what we're going to do, right? I get relationships do matter, but that's all we hear from the Angels all the time. I really like these guys. I mean, we're tight. That locker room, woo! We're so tight in there. Like we laugh and cry together. So much fun, right? Like, great. I'm glad that you guys are singing Kumbaya and roasting marshmallows. I love that. However, you're 72 and 90. You're 63 and 99. None of that matters to me. I hate each other. If you're going to win, hate each other, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what I want. I want a team that's going to win on the field. We haven't had that since 2015. No playoffs since 2014. Don't give me we're all buds. We even have buds. We share buds when we like
buds for you.
Oh, there's no leadership quality that I heard from Bo Porter or saw from Bo Porter this year. And you're right. It's just going to be copy and paste. It's going to be same old, and it'll probably be Bo because he's going to be cheap. Right. And he's only, sure. You know what? Give me 2 years. I'll prove myself for 2 years. We're going to be friends at the end of this. We're going to be best friends. That's what I'm going to do at the end of 2 years. Good grief.
I want somebody who knows how to manage a bullpen. And
yes. Yeah.
If you recall, there was the moment where he brought somebody in. Sosha brought in a pinch hitter, and the umpires let Bo bring in another pitcher. And that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because that's not how the rules worked back then. Even without the 3-batter limit that pitchers have now, Bo doesn't know what he's doing out there. And not only have we seen that in the managerial position, but also the base running and coaching position, right? And being a base coach over at first base. Oh, you didn't do so great over there. We have to move you over to third now because you stink over at first base.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was the other way around. I think maybe it was the other way around. I don't know, but good grief, man. Isn't that just, the epitome of this team for somebody to, pick me, raise my hand. Somebody joked on our Instagram, hey, make Roger Lodge the manager. And you know what? At this point, I would not be surprised, Michael, if that's the direction that they went.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your next listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. You can find the show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right. Give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels. Connect with Mike and myself over at Super Halo Bros on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
John, what do you say you and I pick our manager? Tomorrow, on tomorrow's show, you take a segment, I'll take a segment. Let's pick our manager. Who do we want? Now, maybe we don't have a name, but what do we want in strategy? What do we want in intentionality? What kind of guy do we want to lead this team? Tomorrow on Locked On Angels, we're going to share with you who we want, and we would love to hear from you in the comments on who you want. So join us tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
I want the Scarecrow hooked up to ChatGPT. That's what I want. All right, segment over. All right, friends, I hope you'll come back and join us for that. Until then, my name is Jon, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Jon.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody. And for the sickos who like to watch or listen, we'll see you back here on Wednesday.
Give me someone who can come in and pitch in the 7th inning. Sure, here's who I have options for.